Hi everyone, it's Wayne here, also known as the Plantaholic, and this week I'll be talking about what plant foods or fertilisers you should be using on your plants in your exotic garden. So many people are quite daunting when it comes to fertilisers or plant foods, and obviously there's such a wide range of them out there, they don't know which ones to actually put on their plants. So I'm hoping this video will actually cover quite a lot of different reasons why you use different fertilisers on different plants, when to apply them and how to apply them. So let's go. So I would say the first thing to consider would be whether you want to be an organic gardener or you're happy to use inorganic fertilisers. So organic fertilisers are completely natural, so it'd be things like chicken manure or pellets, obviously horse manure, and things like bloodfish and bone or seaweed extract. And then inorganic fertilisers are man-made, so those could be things like Gromor, the Vitax Q4, and many other fertilisers. I think the second thing to consider then would be the NPK ratio. So NPK ratio is the three numbers that are on most fertilisers by law. So you can see here this one is 511, and NPK stands for nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. So the first number, in this case the number 5, is N for nitrogen. And nitrogen is for shoots and leaf growth and stems. The second number here, the 1 in the middle, is for phosphorus, so P, and that's for root growth. And finally, the last number 1 is K, known as kalium, or the other name for that is potassium. And potassium is for flowers and fruits. So you could think of the rhyme NPK ratio as shoots, roots, flowers and fruits. And they're not allowed to actually move those numbers around. So it can never be PKN or, K, PN and such like. It always has to be in that order, NPK. So really, the type of fertiliser that you'll be applying depends on what sort of plant you're trying to grow. So the type of plant you're trying to grow, think about what you're growing it for. Is it that you're growing it for the foliage? Is it because you're growing it for the flowers or fruits? So it's no good putting just a high nitrogen fertiliser on, say, dahlias, because obviously you grow dahlias really for flowers for the most part. So really you need to have a fertiliser which is high in potassium, so the last number should be highest. And a really good fertiliser to use for dahlias is tomato food, because it's rich in potassium. So this organic fish fertiliser is really good for lots of leaf growth and stem growth, the shoots, because obviously the first number for nitrogen is high, it's 5. And so you could use this for many plants at the beginning of the season, in the springtime, to get all that fresh growth, and then maybe you could switch over to a fertiliser higher in potassium later on in the growing season when things are starting to get ready to flower. With fertilisers though, it's very important not to apply them outside during the winter months. If you do that, it encourages lots of soft growth which will then get frosted off. So never apply them outside during the winter time. You can actually apply high potassium fertilisers to plants outside in late summer, autumn, and it's because potassium also strengthens the cell walls of plants, so it actually toughens them up for the winter time. So seaweed extract is fantastic stuff. It's organic and you can mix it with other fertilisers. It actually helps for the plant to actually uptake the nutrients from other fertilisers if mixed together. It's a plant growth stimulant, so it's a tonic or a real good boost, and it actually makes your garden smell of the seaside too. So these fertilisers that I've just mentioned, the fish fertiliser and the seaweed extract, are both liquids, so they're both soluble. So it means that they are readily absorbed by the plant in a liquid form, just like water. And then there are other fertilisers which are a granule or powder, which can be sprinkled on the soil, and they take longer to break down. So of course there's pros and cons of different fertilisers, so that's something else you need to consider really. Obviously soluble fertilisers or liquids work much quicker, and the more powdered or granule forms take much longer to work, things like bloodfish and bone. That does have some advantages in that it can take longer to break down, so it's actually feeding the plant for longer, over many weeks or months. So a fertiliser which has all nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium and maybe some of the micronutrients which aren't mentioned on NPK, that's called a compound fertiliser because it's a mixture of different nutrients. If you're using a fertiliser which is just all of one, so for example all nitrogen only, that's called a straight fertiliser. So what fertiliser do you use? Well, you might find that you have to use a range of fertilisers, especially if you've got a wide range of plants. You might want to use a high nitrogen fertiliser first of all in the springtime to get things growing nice and lush, and then switch over to a high potassium one if it's for flowers and fruits. Then again you might want to carry on using high nitrogen to get lots of lush growth if it's just for foliage. Or you could use a balanced fertiliser, so you could have a 1-1-1 fertiliser which has got all three, nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. So really there's so much out there. Do have a look around and do always check the packets of the fertilisers before you buy them. Also when you apply, always go by the recommended instructions on the box or the bottle, because just by putting twice the amount of fertiliser on there doesn't mean you're going to get better results. In fact, you could actually harm the plant. If you put too much fertiliser on plants can stop uptaking the nutrients and even water from the roots, and this is called exosmosis, which can obviously put a plant under a lot of stress. So always go by the recommended instructions by the manufacturer. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video guys, and obviously spring is just around the corner there in the UK, so this is the time of the year when we're starting to think about fertilisers now. So I really hope you're going to have a really successful growing season this year, and I hope that this video will play a big part in getting a better exotic garden at home. Cheers guys, see you next week, bye.